It's about human beings, and so I want to put subjectivity into Wikipedia, and we're doing that not just with teachers, not just with professors, not just with Nobel Prize winners, but with young kids who are 6, 7, 10 years old, and they all come with their own little ideas with this, and perhaps they're a bit half-baked, but that's great, because they are now creating, because education is not just about teaching kids what is known, but it's actually uncapping their creative potential as much as possible, and that's what we're trying to do.
During his stay in Vietnam this time, Professor Kroto, Chemistry Nobel laureate, visited the Vietnam National University, where he gave a talk on education, the basis of peace, and the key to an enlightened global community. Let's take a closer look.
Professor Kroto's arrival marked the second time that Vietnam National University Hanoi had the honor to be visited by a Nobel laureate since last December. Before giving his lecture, Professor Kroto was presented the honorary doctorate by the university leaders. This was considered a milestone in the strategy towards science education and development in the education sector.
Hiện nay là chúng tôi đang chọn khoa hóa học để xây dựng cái khoa đầu tiên, trong là cái Hà Nội đạt chuẩn quốc tế. Thì rất may lần này thì chúng tôi được đón một cái nhà khoa học được giải thưởng Nobel về khoa học. Chúng tôi thấy rằng qua cái dịp này thì những cái hoài bão, những cái đam mê khoa học của sinh viên khoa học của trường đại học tự nhiên của Hà Nội sẽ được tăng lên rất nhiều.
Instead of spending time to explain how his research won him the Nobel Prize, Professor Kroto told students stories of his life, his other passions such as graphic design and sport, and his experiences in choosing a career. He said that being passionate about the things you like can only lead to good results. That's one of the key pieces of advice Professor Kroto gave to the Vietnamese students.
This design, I would be quite happy not winning the Nobel Prize. Okay, I was very happy with my science before we made the discovery. I felt I was a success. I didn't go into science to win any prizes, let alone the Nobel Prize. And that's very important, because I see here in Asia, how do you win a Nobel? I don't know. I just do what I'm interested in. If it turns out something special comes, then maybe the Nobel Prize will come.
Nguyễn Khánh Hưng is among the chemistry faculty's many students that listen to Professor Kroto. Seeing a big name in chemistry in person sparked a passion for science among Hưng and his peers.
Sinh viên mà học về ngành khoa học thì ai cũng có là một ít mơ ước về cái giải Nobel. Tất nhiên là nó rất là khó, nhưng mà thứ nhất hôm nay được gặp cái người gọi là đã từng đạt giải Nobel thì em thấy thích thú, thì em quyết định là đến. Khi biết được là quá trình phấn đấu của ngài thì em cảm thấy là mình càng phải cố gắng hơn nữa, cũng như là một niềm sức mạnh để truyền cho em là cảm thấy được rằng là mình phải cố gắng hơn nữa để có thể biết đâu sau đấy là sẽ là sinh viên Việt Nam thì hoàn toàn có thể đạt được giải Nobel nào đó trong tương lai.
It could well be a long time before Professor Kroto has another chance to meet Vietnamese students again, but his words will remain in the mind of these young people, acting as guidelines and driving force for their decisions in the future.
So there it is. I'm only here to make you think. Thank you very much.
In your lecture here in Vietnam, when you spoke at the National University, you spoke about education, the basis for peace, and the key to an enlightened global community. So can you please brief us about the highlights of your presentation with some examples to illustrate?
Well, the first thing is education should be, as I say, first of all, teaching kids how they can decide what they're being told is true. The second thing is, and actually more important, is to develop a humanitarian attitude to the way things are, so that if they become scientists, they don't make more atomic bombs and landmines and things like this. But from a teaching point, they have to be creative, and I think to be creative, you have to have a wide education, not just in science. Whereas in the 50s, and when we were using it, we had to have rational attitude to fixing things. On car didn't work that well, so you had to have a scientific attitude to working out what you fix. And so the dynamics of the technology now, I think, are counterproductive as far as our young people are concerned. So that's a problem, and also the influences on them are not to do science and do things that are difficult and complicated. They see, you know, supermodels making a huge amount of money and celebrities making this, that, and the other, and so there's less incentive to work hard and learn differential equations, which are not easy. So I point to those issues, or try to point to some of those thousands of issues in my presentation.
And after your first visit to the Vietnam National University, have you thought of any particular plans for cooperation or assistance?
Yes, I mean, perhaps the most important reason for my travel is I try to get schools and universities to cooperate with me and participate in this global educational outreach program for science, engineering, and technology, which is GeoSet, so that they will contribute, and that will get young people, particularly students in universities, to contribute their ideas and what they find fascinating to this global cache of educational material.
Perhaps the biggest challenge facing many young scientists today?
Well, I did talk about these. The first is to be a scientist at all, because there's not a real understanding of what it is. I think some of them want to win Nobel Prizes and they won't win them. They've got to do science because, first of all, they can make a good living at it, which is useful, but also that they can play around with the way the universe is and be curious of where it is and work hard to find out how it works, why it works the way it does. The second thing, it's actually quite difficult because I think the world today is so highly technological that young people, when they have a mobile phone or whatever, they can't find out how it works, whereas all the things that were around me when I was a kid, I could take them apart and see how they work. I might not be able to put them back together again. I could see how it worked. I mean, I could take a clock to pieces and there's a spring and I could see roughly how it worked. I couldn't put it back together again. And so my world was full of things that I could repair. And you learn how things work by repairing. You can't repair them now. You can't repair a camera. I mean, I had a camera and I knew everything about that camera. And it works today as well as it worked then if I had the film to put in it. And I could probably make some film, right? But if my present camera goes, with all that electronics goes, then that's more or less it, because it'll be more expensive to fix it than to buy the next generation. And I think that's probably bad for the development of a scientific attitude. And I think we need to be aware of that. But there are also other problems for kids today. There were no people earning hundreds of thousands of pounds to play soccer. When I was sort of starting, soccer players in England got £20 a week, right? I could make more than £20 a week, I think, doing science. But I certainly can't make £100,000 a week doing science, whereas some soccer players are being paid that and they're injured, you know? And I think that's not good. So we have this celebrity issue. So footballers are being paid these huge amounts of money, and therefore that's a bad icon for young people, particularly the African American community in the USA, where most of the icons they have are American footballers, basketball players, and how many can be successful professionally in this? Not very many. And I look at Central Africa. What are their icons? They're marathon runners. Well, how many are going to be able to earn a living as a marathon runner? So I think it's very important that in the developing world they start to have icons, scientific icons, and I think it's fantastic that you have a Fields medalist here in Vietnam to show that intellectual hard work and a passion to understand something in the mathematics and sciences is possible. But I'm sure he didn't do this to win a lot of money, or even probably to win the Fields medal, because it doesn't work that way. I mean, 9 out of 10 Nobel Prize winners, I am sure, are totally as surprised as I am that we won the Nobel Prize. There are one or two who tackle big problems, and I know them, and I just say, well, I don't tackle big problems, they're too difficult for me. And it turns out that, as I said before, the unexpected is where the big surprise is.
During the reception held in your honor, Vietnamese Deputy Prime Minister Nguyễn Thiện Nhân said that Vietnam looks forward to your support in the future. Do you plan to return to Vietnam for any cooperation projects or to help Vietnamese scientists in some way?
Yes, I intend to return by internet at the very least, because I now can't go everywhere. So I now give presentations via the internet, and I do this maybe several times a year to India, and I've done this now to Iceland, to Germany, in Australia, to 2,000 kids, so I can reach people that I can't go any other way. But I'm hoping that it'd be a two-way thing, that there will be creation of educational material in Vietnamese here, and contribution to this global initiative.
In a developing country like